Yo, what's going on, everybody? So, I wanted to hop on here tonight and tell you guys another story. I want to tell you about a coworker I used to work with who's easily the biggest character I've ever met in my life. Where I met him was an irrigation company that I worked at for many years, and if you've seen my video on like the worst job I ever had, toxic coworkers, that video, this is not the same place. This is a different one. This is one of the best jobs I actually ever had, and one of the benefits to it was meeting this guy because he was so funny to me. So for my first couple years at this place, I was basically just an assistant to another service technician, right? They would have a van, they would drive around house to house repairing shit, and I would just get things for them or do all the dirty work, right? And I always got paired with this one guy. Now, this dude's name was Mike. He was pretty old. He was like in his early 60s, maybe mid 60s, in comparison to the rest of the guys we worked with. He had long, greasy, silvery hair. He also had a rat tail. He chain smoked cigarettes and he had no teeth, none at all. His cheeks and his like gums were sunken into his face. When he would eat a sandwich, his neck would extend. He would look like a turtle taking a bite. And he was always trying to convince people to get their teeth pulled. I'm not even kidding. He was like, fuck them. You don't need them. Why bother? He always thought it was like a pain in the ass to take care of his teeth, right? So he thought having none was like a W. So the very first thing this guy ever says to me is I get in his van and he's just like, you wouldn't want to be sitting there if you knew who I was. And I was like, oh, oh, like, what do you mean, right? And he's just like, I did fun 17 years in the penitentiary. Yeah, curb stomped a fucker. That's literally exactly what he said to me. And I was like, oh my God. I knew that I was in for a treat, right? Like today was going to be wild. Whether I wanted to be a part of it or not, I was in for the ride. And let me tell you, I worked with this guy. I got stuck with him constantly. Everybody at the company basically refused to work with him or do anything with him. They hated him, right? I mean, to the point where like all the head service tech guys had like the front of this office. There was just a handful of desks that they would go there, answer some calls, do their paperwork, and upstairs was the boss and his wife who ran the company, and then in the back of the shop was like me and all the younger kids, you know, with the parts and all that shit, stocking the vans, doing all that. Well, Mike was like technically a full service technician, but they stuck him in the back of the shop with us at this plastic piece of shit children's desk, and he sat on a spool of wire for a chair, and he would still go around being like, yeah, they gave me my own desk at my job. He would flex that to like the customers when we were fucking fixing their sprinklers, and this guy's just talking about how important he is at the office. He would also never do anything. This guy would skip calls. We would go to calls and there would be evidently an issue, like a leak, a visible leak of like water near the house, and he would just be like, eh, fuck it. Nah, it's good. Let's go. We would just bail. I mean, he didn't want to do anything. He's always like, I'm too old to be getting behind a shovel. So I mean, the whole job was digging, and I don't think I ever saw this guy dig ever. I don't know if you guys in other countries have a restaurant called Freshie, and by restaurant, I mean it's like a fast food. Picture like a Wendy's, but it's all healthy food, right? And it's all like vegetables and healthy alternatives and all this shit, right? So I go in there to take a piss one time and I come out and Mike has come in the store and he's staring at the menu and I'm like, yo, let's go. Fuck this place. I don't think you're going to like it. Like, let's go to the gas station. I mean, obviously his entire diet was 7-Eleven. He was like, what the fuck? Chickpeas on a sandwich? What do they want me to do? Plant the fucker? So funny, right? And he would always call everything by like a weird name. Instead of saying building, he would always say, yeah, we got to go up the high rise. Instead of saying outlet or go plug this in, he would say, buddy, go put this in the GFI. He would always be like, oh, somebody's calling me on my mobile device. Debt collectors were constantly calling him. He had no shame in the world, so he was taking that shit on speaker. And they would just be like, talking to him, right? And he would be telling them, he'd be like, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to pay, blah, blah, blah. Like he was just arguing with them like they gave a single shit what he was saying, right? But the conversation always ended with him hanging up on them mid-sentence being like, fuck you, see you in court. If there was ever a person that fit the description of skin and bones, it was this guy. He was like 60 pounds. I mean, he used to claim that he was like way bigger and super jacked, right? But then he would always say, but then I got addicted to the chemicals because at one point he claims he was addicted to crack and living on the street. And honestly, I believe it. He said he used to live in a Home Depot shed. You know, like the sheds that they have out in the parking lot on display? He's like, yeah, I used to live in one of those. I don't know if he lived in one of those sheds, but I like to believe he did because that's hilarious. And thinking about like a Home Depot worker coming out there just like after a shift or right before it, checking out everything and being like, what the fuck? Hey, what's going on, buddy? And there's Mike hanging out, living in the shed. This guy would come into the office, by the way, and be like, oh my God, I was up all night with a migraine, dry heaving. We're like, oh, okay, that's disgusting. We didn't need to know that. My fucking lizard, Rosie, the fat bitch, tipped over all her crickets and they got loose in my room. So he claims he was just up all night, with the crazy headache because there was like 1,000 crickets loose in his room. And, it was like super loud and he couldn't collect them. And he was blaming his lizard, Rosie, the fat bitch. Mike was also trying to sell Escalade rims the entire time I knew him. I mean, from start to finish of my career at this place, he got fired before I left. We'll get to that. But the entire duration of his time working here, multiple summers, multiple seasons, he was always trying to sell these fucking Escalade rims. He would go up to everybody every day and be like, hey, buddy, you want to take a look at these Escalade rims I'm selling? And we'd be like, no, dude, like I said no yesterday and the day before and the day before. No, thank you, right? And he was always whipping up photos on his phone and being like, hey, check out these rims. Do you think you know anybody who would be interested in these? I don't know why he was trying to sell them or why it was so hard to get rid of them. I'm pretty sure he still has those Escalade rims and he's still trying to sell them. I would bet my life on it. Multiple people at the company, including him and myself eventually, had our own like service van vehicle, right? He was the only person who continuously got red light camera tickets and also got in accidents. So every single time we came in the morning, there was always a ticket sitting on Mike's desk. And he would always come in and be, blowing his top, being like, what? Again? No way. And he would like storm up to the boss's office being like, there's no way these fuckers got me again. Like saying like it's a glitch or they're just sending the same one over and over. I mean, it was classic, right? He was also always getting in accidents and it was never his fault. There was a new ding, there was a new scratch, there was a new broken tail light or some shit, you know what I mean? He would show up to the shop every day at like 4:30 in the morning, like way too early. The rest of us were there at like 5:50, 6 a.m., right? And he would always flex it on us being like, I open up the shop every morning at 4:30 a.m. And he would always like he would take so much pride in that, right? And the boss and his wife were always like, Mike, stop. You do not need to be here this early. We open up the shop. There's nothing for you to do, and we're not going to pay you. And all he would do is stand outside beside the dumpsters and smoke like a pack of cigarettes before the rest of us showed up. I mean, you've never seen a human smoke more than this man. He would smoke like 3 packs a day. If you were working with him, which obviously I often was, you would go home with a sore throat and a gnarly headache. I mean, this guy had the van hotboxed constantly, and he would never crack the window, and he would always hold the cigarette in the hand closest to me. Like he didn't give a shit, right? This guy would put a dart in his mouth, light it, and then never touch it again. He would never like put it in his hand and, put it back and forth between his mouth. He just breathed normally and it would kill the dart. And he would kill them in like 20 seconds. It was wild. Eventually, I stopped, working service with him and I moved over to the install crews, but Mike would still help out sometimes. He would come to our installs when we needed backup because the day was going to be like really extended, so he would come help. And of course, he was always bitching and moaning and saying hilarious things. One time, he like went to install a sprinkler and there was a bunch of red ants in the ground where the sprinkler was dug. And he was like, who the fuck put red ants in my trench? I'll kick their ass. Like we did it as a prank. Like we planted a hive of red ants exactly where he was going to go install the sprinkler. You know what I mean? But eventually Mike doing nothing at all his calls and like leaving disastrous leaks and doing all that BS, it caught up to him and they had to let him go. Now, word came down to us eventually because, like, all these irrigation companies, like, the bosses know each other and, like, there's talk, you might drive down the street, see another guy working for another company, pull over for a minute or two and chat it up, right? So one of those guys let us know that Mike had now been working with them and he was working on the install crew, but he got fired in his very first week because he was caught by the guy who owned the company and the homeowner that he was supposed to be installing the sprinklers for, lying behind the dude's shed under a tree, just playing Candy Crush for like 6 hours. I have so many Mike stories. I could go on and on. I mean, I spent so much time with this dude. I worked with him for like 2 years, and every single day was crazy, right? So I'll definitely make more Mike videos in the future if it's well received. If people hate it, fuck it. But if it's funny, expect more Mike videos. Anyways, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Peace.